Oh guys, I mean, look at this. I mean, you can't beat a day like today. This is fantastic. Now, it is extremely cold and I didn't dress as well and keep taking my gloves off, freezing my hand off. But gorgeous day in Alaska, cold day in Alaska. I think it's one of the last days of sun we get because it's supposed to start snowing the next 2 or 3 days. So it's going to be more fun to take photography out here and get the snow and all these animals. But what we're here today to talk about is, yes, I sold the Canon R10. And yes, I know I just had a video talking about how good it was and what a great value that camera is and all that stuff. And I still stand behind that. I still believe it's a great camera, all those things. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to talk you through why did I sell the Canon R10. And I'm going to go about my day of chasing all these animals, and during the middle of that I'll talk to you and tell you the reasons why I sold the Canon R10. So let's go about the journey. Let's see what we can find today. So far so good. We got Dall Sheep. They're all around me everywhere. These guys are probably 100 yards from me at that. Awesome. And they're bedding down, which is great, but the light's beating the crap out of them, so it's kind of hard to get them an exposure because it's so bright. But anyway, stay tuned here, stick with me, and I'll wander you through why I sold the Canon R10. Talk to you here in a bit. This is me trying to get the shot. About to break my neck laying here on the ground. These rams are straight above me, 2 of them. They kind of keep poking at each other, hoping I get the old head class shot, but I'm having to lay down here so I can get steady video with this big lens, and it makes it easier for me to shoot these guys. But yeah, that's what you gotta do. You gotta get down here, get in the ground, get in dirt, get dirty, get muddy to get that shot. Anyway, on to the next point about the Canon R10 and why I sold it. Talk to you here in just a bit. Oh, this sun, look at this. It is beating that sheep up so hard above me. This ram, he just bedded down looking right at me. Perfect pose, but the light, I wish a cloud would cover that sun up to give me some diffused light. But so let's level set real quick about the Canon R10. Camera is a great camera. I stand by every bit of that. You got to remember, well, we'll start off with the 2 reasons why I picked the camera up, because we always have to think about why we're going to buy a camera. Or we're going to buy a piece of gear. We need to rationalize and make sure we're making the right choice. So at the time, I had the R7 in the shop. I was down to the R5 only, and I really was getting used to having 2 bodies and really work with them. At the time, there was no R7s on available. I probably would have bought that right off the bat. But I looked at the R10 and the quality of it, and this looked like a little more dumbed down R7. That's what I was hoping. And for most part, it is. It's a great camera. The image quality and the video come into that. I recorded several videos with that camera. It worked great. It did all that stuff. It would suit a need. But you got to remember, everybody has different needs for what they're doing in their work. Not everybody needs a 500 f4 prime like I do. Like this ram is above me. He's about 300 yards from me, and I've got the 1.4 teleconverter on this. So I'm shooting this at 700 millimeters. But he's still only about half in the frame. And I wish this a cloud would cover that sun up, because I'd love to get better shots, because he's just perfect spot, bedded down looking right at me. But so like I said, the camera had good quality, good image quality, good video quality. It recorded 120 frames a second. It recorded 60/24, those 2 things I needed. The image quality at it was really good. It didn't have as much dynamic range as the R7 and the R5, of course, but I could live with that. It was a little hotter. I had to adjust my editing a little bit more. It came out a little more green, a little more magenta than the other cameras. Small amount, remember that. So a little bit of editing difference there, but again, that was not the reason why I sold the camera. So one level set real quick. Good camera, great beginner camera. I still stand by that. But my needs, there was something that lacked on it. And there's another reason at the end that really made it easy for me to make that decision to sell it. So I got about 3 or 4 reasons why, but I wanted to level set you first there. I'm gonna try to, bird in front of me chatter inside, trying to figure where it was at. I'm gonna try to get a different angle on this guy to maybe shoot him back on his shadow side, maybe see if I can get it. It's gonna be kind of hard to get to, but I'm gonna see if I can. So when I get done with that, I will, if I succeed or fail, we'll go talk about the first reason that I was thinking about selling the camera. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through the reasons I thought about selling the camera and the final nail in the coffin to go ahead and do it. Let's just sell it and you'll see why. So I'll talk to you here in a minute and I'll quit rambling. Got an angry squirrel here next to me, but I did get a couple pictures of it. Pretty cool. All right, let's talk about the first point. First point of this camera was use it for a second body, for a backup body. And it would work pretty good in that regard. And pretty easy to use when you're going in stills, right? But when you want to switch to video, that's where it got a bit cumbersome with that camera out in the field. So to switch to video, you had to change the dial on it, which is okay. But and that camera also has tip menus that come up a lot of times. I think you can disable them, but I didn't try. But a lot of times you switch that dial, it comes up to that tip menu, says, okay, you're in manual mode, how do you want to hit it? Or video, how do you want to hit it? And that got annoying, but I know I could get around that. But just change the dial to the video, and you couldn't do any custom settings on the video. So that kind of made it kind of hard. So I had to stick really to one. On the fly, I can only stick to one. A boreal chickadee is laid next to me, but I'll stick with you guys and not go squirrel like was behind me. There's another one over there. Well, there's a whole bunch of them next to me. Anyway, I'm going to resist shooting these birds and talk to you guys some more. So, switching the dial on the camera in the field was cumbersome because when you switch it over, you pretty much, to go run and gun, you're stuck either 120 or 24. Now I did 120 mostly, so not that big a deal. But my thought was use that as a backup or second camera to record myself and record animals at the same time. So it really, I'd have to go in and change the setting every time when I needed to change the frame rate. So that was a little bit cumbersome on that camera for video. And switch from stills to video. In stills mode, it was really good, worked really good. The sensor readout was slower, so you did have a little more rolling shutter than you had with the R7. Again, not a big problem to me, but it was just one of the many little small things that add up to the one big thing, right? So those were the shortcomings for me in the field. For most people, that would not be shortcomings in the field. Most of you don't go to video, it didn't bother you, but that's what that camera is for me, that first part. So as a backup camera, it did fit the bill for about 85–90% of what I needed. So that was the first one. So now that I've talked to you and got that point out of the way, I'm going to shoot these birds because they're hanging around me here, and it's like putting a donut next to you. You got to eat it. You got to eat that donut. And that's what I got to do with these birds. So let me take pictures of the birds and we'll get into the next point. Talk to you in just a minute. All right, done shooting those chickadees. That was pretty cool. I lost the boreals, but I did have a few black caps that I was able to capture pictures of. Pretty cool. So yeah, the next part of that camera, well, let me finish talking about the shooting aspects of the camera. The autofocus is really good. Being the sensor was a little less, there was a few times it 100 pec, but that didn't bother me. That didn't stop. That wasn't the reason I sold the camera, but you know, those little things I expected to be a little less in, so not a big deal there. The next thing was the video on that camera. It shot really good video for the most part. And like you've seen the video, you've seen the footage of it, it looks good, works good. The one thing it didn't have was C-Log 3. And I didn't think it's a big deal because I wasn't really grading my footage. So I when I bought it, I thought that wasn't a big deal. But then I started grading my footage again with the R10, sorry. But then I started grading the footage again with my R5, and then when I got my R7 back, I started grading the footage again. And I kind of enjoyed grading that footage and getting a little more colors and range out of it. And with the R10 in the studio, I couldn't record C-Log, so I couldn't grade the footage. Now, it's not a deal breaker, but again, it was one of those, just another thing adding on top of that pile of things that kind of wish the camera had. And so that would be the next thing on the video. And like I said, it shot good video. Don't get me wrong, but it's 8-bit video and I want to shoot 10-bit video. And I want to shoot 10-bit video to shoot in HDR mode, which I don't do, or shooting C-Log 3, which that camera didn't have. So that was just one more thing added to that pile, like I said a second ago, that added to, you know, things that I wish the camera had. And over time, when I've got a camera or a piece of equipment that I wish it had, I start thinking about, should I change that out? You know, do I want to have shortcomings that aren't big shortcomings, but they are shortcomings. They sit there kind of nag you a little bit. So that was one of those. So that's the second thing. So basically, so far we got in the field. Didn't really do everything that I wanted it to do, but it was close. And going from stills to video, which I do a lot, was a problem. And the second thing so far now was in the studio, not be able to grade C-Log footage, and you know, that I'd only have just out of the camera. And those two things were kind of bothering me. So those are the first couple things. So let me get back down the truck, and I'm really close to the highway here, so you're probably hearing car noise. These birds are just everywhere around me here in this little bit of thicket, so it's tempting to stay right here, but I've got other things to do. So let me get down the hill, and I'll give you another point about this camera and the truck, and then we'll move to another location, and we'll finish up the discussion about it, and hopefully make this video less than 30 minutes. We'll see, though. But again, oh wow, what a great day. A second ram came down up top, I forgot to tell you guys earlier, and they were kind of, I thought they were going to do little headbutts, but they kind of came close but stopped. But they were there, but they're still right there, but I'm kind of tired of shooting them, and the light's too harsh, so I'm going to move on. And I'm going to go check on our local bear that's trying to den up that we found, and see if there's two of them, there's he and a she, see if they're out. And we'll talk more about this camera there. So I'll talk to you in just a minute. Well, I'm back down the truck now, as you can see. It was a lot of fun out there with the chickadees and the sheep and the squirrels and stuff. But I'm happy to be in the truck to get warmed up a little bit. It is a little chilly. Let's get into the next part of this camera, on one of the reasons why I sold it, and that would be the battery on this camera. The R10 uses an LPE17 battery. It's a smaller battery, and the first issue with that is that battery is extremely hard to find at times. And you can find third-party batteries, but I do not use third-party batteries, and I would advise against them. I've had plenty of people that their camera's fried by using a third-party battery because the voltages get a little bit off, and then you have problems with your camera. But not finding a battery, yes, that's an issue. Second one was the battery life. In the studio, that battery would drain in 20 minutes running that video on the camera for most times with me. And by not having a second battery, the problem with that is when if the battery went out, I'd have to stop, charge the battery up, you know, and then get back to filming later and break the cycle of where it was and try to remember where it was, make myself a note, and then get back to filming recording. Now I could use a charging brick and a cable and done power delivery on that, but I've already got a ton of stuff already plugged in back there. I don't have to plug in the camera also. But that is a way around it. And you can also buy a dummy battery that has a cable that goes to it also. You can do that. So there's ways around that, but that's not what I wanted to do with that camera. I just wanted to have the battery life to work on it, change the battery out as I needed, and those type things. Because it's not always in the studio. It's going to be in the studio most of the time, but in and out. So that battery life was bad in the studio. In the field, if I'm running the bigger 500 prime, or if I was running the 7200, things like that, and I'm taking pictures constantly, and like I'm using the camera constantly, it's not being turned off or not going to sleep, it's just I'm walking, shooting. The battery life on that would be an hour and a half, 2 hours. If I was where I'd shoot a little bit, walk a little bit, shoot a little bit. It would last about 3 hours or more. And there's times when it lasts about an hour and a half. And again, not having a second battery, find an extra battery, plug it in, go. But I didn't have a second battery, so that part was making it where it was harder for me to use that camera over a lengthy period of time. And for what I do with the photography and this channel and the video, is I'm running these cameras all day long. Some days, like when I went out with the moose rut battle that I had with the R10, I was shooting the R10 and the R5 during the day. So the R10 didn't go the full day, so it lasted about 4.5 hours, but that was not with continual use. That was a little bit of breaks here and there of walking and breaks of me using the R5 for other stuff that I was doing throughout the day. So that was one of the other issues. So I'm gonna move on and we're gonna go look for a bear, hopefully. And we'll go see if he's there. And maybe the swans will be on Potter's Marsh when we swing back through. We'll see if they're there. And then I'll give you the final reason, the big reason why I sold the camera. And we'll get into that and we'll wrap this guy up. So I will see you just here in a little bit.
Oh, come on, babe, stay a while.
Okay, the bear is out. Hopefully the stream behind me is not too noisy. And it's actually in a tree up here. Actually, can sit right there behind me. Yeah, she's out. The problem is she's facing the wrong way, so, and she won't come down right now. These two bears, they're getting back in their denning area, and so that's where they're setting. Like I said, I hope this is not too loud behind me, but we'll see. I may have to re-record this. Anyway, so the final reason that I sold the R10, now I listed all the other issues before this, about in the field, switching it from stills to video, to the battery life on the camera, no C-log on the camera, those little small shortcomings that come over time, those really didn't make me want to sell the camera. They made me think about selling the camera, but not really selling it. So what happened was I had a friend of mine come along and he said, do you know of a good camera for beginner to intermediate to start off with in the mirrorless world? I said, buddy, have I got a camera for you? So for what he needed, the camera was perfect. And a good friend, I wouldn't take a camera or something that I just don't like and it's garbage and sell it to him. I wouldn't do that. I'd only sell things to friends that I know that they're going to enjoy, and because your reputation is all you've got. So I sold it to him. He needed a camera just for beginner to go out and photograph. He does prefabs on cars. I'll put a link to his channel and his Instagram and stuff like that in his business in the link below, to record that and to record things around out sporting and wildlife and stuff like that around town, but nothing like the level I'm doing. So the camera was perfect for him, to get the camera at a reduced price. And I sold him, I had a nifty 50 RF 5100 to 1.8. I got that to him and pretty happy. So far he's been really happy with the camera. I'd been photographing friends and family, doing some infant photography and his business photography and things like that. So it's really cool. So that's the final nail that I sold it for. If he hadn't come along and needed that type of camera, just perfect when I'm thinking about, should I sell it, should I keep it? And then he needed a camera and I could get him a camera cheaper than he could get it at the store. And then I could get out of that camera and get into something else. That's why I sold it. So that's my reason for selling the camera. If you agree with it or don't agree with it, just let me know in the comments. And if you want to know more about the Canon R10 and all the review I had on it, just watch this link over here, backwards in the camera. Anyway, talk to you guys later.